Welcome to the Word for Life podcast, a daily devotional covering the entire Bible from Genesis to Revelation.
In Leviticus chapter 10, we read about Nadab and Abihu. These two were the elder sons of Aaron. They were both priests alongside their father Aaron. If you read Exodus 24 verse 1, you will see that the Lord invited Nadab and Abihu when he invited Moses and Aaron to come to Sinai. These two were given the opportunity to draw closer to God at Mount Sinai. And in Leviticus chapter 9, they have just been ordained as priests. Now in chapter 10, they begin their ministry in the tabernacle. Unfortunately, their ministry starts on a disastrous note. We read here in chapter 10 that they offered unauthorized fire before the Lord, which was contrary to God's command. The text here does not explain what unauthorized fire means, so we are not sure. But we are told that Nadab and Abihu did something contrary to God's command. Unauthorized fire could mean, number one, using coals taken from some other place than the altar of burnt offering. Or number two, it can be using the wrong kind of incense. Or number three, performing an incense offering at a time not prescribed. Or finally, number four, entering the most holy place at an inappropriate time. There is also another possibility, because in verse 9, God told Aaron, "You and your sons are not to drink wine or other fermented drink whenever you go into the tent of meeting, or you will die." This could also be probably Nadab and Abihu went into the tent of meeting having wine or any other fermented drink. Whatever Nadab and Abihu did, their punishment was severe. They died in the Lord's presence. Fire came out of God's presence and killed them. The text tells us that their dresses, their tunics were intact. So, probably their faces were charred because of the fire, and their bodies had to be taken out of the camp. Understandably, Aaron is so devastated that he does not speak. Moses is the one who speaks. In verse 3, Moses told Aaron, "This is what the Lord spoke of when he said, 'Among those who approach me, I will be proved holy. In the sight of all the people, I will be honored.'" By this statement, Moses properly explained why such a sad thing happened. Among those who approach me. You see, only Aaron and his sons were given such a great access to approach the Lord's presence. None of the Israelites, even Moses, was not given such access inside the tabernacle. But friends, with privilege comes responsibility. Moses also told Aaron that God will be proved holy. You see, not only is our God holy, but He does not allow anyone, even the priests, to take His holiness lightly. God is merciful to a repentant sinner, but God expects His priests to follow His commandments strictly. Not only that, Moses said, "In the sight of all the people, God will be honored." You see, the priests were also role models for Israel. If they themselves take God's presence and holiness lightly, Israel also will take it lightly. But if they honor the Lord's presence, God's people will also honor God's presence. So Moses told Aaron that through Nadab and Abihu, God was sending a message to the people of Israel that he needs to be honored. Verse 10 and 11 tells us how Aaron needs to distinguish between the holy and the common, between the unclean and the clean. This means Aaron and the priests must understand God's commandments clearly and follow everything that God said about what is holy, what is common, what is clean, and what is unclean. And not only that, in verse 11, we see that Aaron and his sons ought to teach the Israelites all these decrees that the Lord has given. We understand here that there was a huge expectation from the priests of Israel, simply because they were leaders, teachers, and mediators for Israel. They literally stood in the presence of God. Friends, it may sound very harsh for today's audience, but this is what happened. Moses told Aaron and his other sons in verse 6 and 7 not to grieve for Nadab and Abihu, or they will die. Aaron's relatives and all the Israelites can mourn, but Aaron and his sons must not even leave the entrance of the tent of meeting, because the Lord's anointing oil was on them. Later, Moses and Aaron get into an argument about the goat of the sin offering. Again, you see that so much is expected from the priests. You see, earlier that day, Aaron had offered a goat for the sin offering. That means he had offered it for Israel. Now, Moses is angry because they burned the sin offering instead of eating it as God told them to. Moses is concerned that once again Aaron and his sons had violated the laws of God, just like Nadab and Abihu had done. In all this, we understand, even as Aaron's sons are dead, Moses is expecting them to follow all the commandments of God. So this tells us that the priests of Israel were expected to live a very high, sacred, and consecrated life for God. This tragic episode talks to Christian leaders and people in responsible positions in the Christian world. Because so many people follow them, because so many people take the lives of their leaders as their models, it is essential for Christian leaders to have a higher standard for themselves.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you tomorrow for the next episode of the Word for Life podcast.